So every year, there's always a team that starts off the season bad and then has a complete turnaround. Examples of that are the St. Louis Blues from 2019, where they had the worst record in the NHL in January, and then they won the Stanley Cup a couple months later. Another example is the Nashville Predators of last year, where they started off pretty bad. There was questions of a rebuild, and then they just turned it around and made the playoffs. I feel like an example for this year's turnaround would have to be the Vancouver Canucks because it has just been a crazy run for them lately. And given what has happened with the last 8 years with this team, I think the fans kind of deserve it. Yeah, it's been a rough time. I've seen many people profile this season as year 8 of the rebuild, as the Canucks have just had a horrible November. And this November has been nothing but bad. They had a 4-10 record. They were outscored 52-27, and they let in 4+ goals 6 different times. Wow. And the losing continued into December after a 4-1 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Benning chants and the Green chants got even bigger and even louder. And in my 5 years of watching hockey, that's something I have never seen before. And finally, the Canucks got their wish. On December 5th, the first person to be fired was Travis Green. I made a video about that. It's the most popular video in channel history. And then later on in the night, Jim Benning got fired. And oh my gosh, I've never seen a happier fan base. Genuinely. Fun fact, I actually remember exactly where I was when Travis Green got fired. I was playing the brand new season of Fortnite when I found out that he was fired, and I just grabbed my phone and I started making a video right over there. So that's the funny part of, doing this YouTube channel. So with Benning and Green fired, obviously people have to come in to replace their jobs. So they did a full front office revamp. They hired Jim Rutherford as the president and interim GM. Their current GM has not been decided yet. And they hired Bruce Boudreau as their new head coach. Now, I want to talk about Bruce Boudreau a little bit. Bruce Boudreau is an iconic person in the hockey world. He's coached many different teams featuring the Anaheim Ducks, Washington Capitals, and many others, and he has been featured in some iconic videos.
Get your heads out of your ass and can make it work by outworking the opposition.
He kind of reminds me of my older self, where I used to just say the F word all the time because, I'm in middle school, I can do this now. But I feel like the Canucks kind of need a guy like Bruce Boudreau to really bring up the locker room, because Travis Green was just so serious and so boring, just like every other coach in the league. We need a guy like Bruce Boudreau. Come on now. And it is really shown in the Canucks play as of late that they have been just on a roll. Now, they beat the LA Kings 4-0, which is a big shutout win. Then they beat the Boston Bruins 2-1 in a shootout. And then they beat the Winnipeg Jets 4-3 in a shootout. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, Nordic, these are kind of bad teams. I mean, LA, they're kind of still a rebuilding team. Boston's been struggling a little bit. And the Jets have kind of been a middle-of-the-road team. And 2 of those wins were shootout wins. They really proved us that this isn't a fluke when they played the Carolina Hurricanes. They beat them 2-1, and they beat a team that is top 3 in the NHL, has a dominant team with Sebastian Aho, Marty Necas, Andrei Svechnikov, just to name a few. They beat out those guys. Then they moved on to Columbus, came back from being down 3-0 and won 4-3. Then they beat the San Jose Sharks 5-2, and then they overcame a 1-0 deficit from Anaheim last night and beat them 2-1 in overtime. Now, of course, Bruce Boudreau is not doing everything out there. He's not being the coach. He's not being every single player on the ice. He's not being the goalie, obviously. There's players that do that. Which brings us into the segment, Forwards Leading the Charge. We're going to start off with JT Miller for this episode. Now, JT Miller is often criticized by Vancouver Canucks fans and other fans in the NHL. He plays a very emotional game where he gets the goals, sure, but he also takes a lot of penalties, and that's a part of his emotional play in the game. And I feel like it's really been effective as of late. And since Bruce Boudreau has come to town, he's really put up the points. Now, JT Miller has played 32 games, has 11 goals, 23 assists for 34 points, including a goal, the overtime goal, and an assist last night in the 2-1 win against the Anaheim Ducks. He's been a really effective player in the Canucks lineup as of late, and arguably the best the whole season. The next player I want to discuss is Connor Garland, someone who came from Arizona in the offseason, that big trade that involved trading Louis Eriksson, Antoine Roussel, Travis Boyd, and many other players out of Vancouver for 2 players, including OEL and Connor Garland. And Garland's really stepped up into the lineup for the Canucks since coming from Arizona. In his first season wearing the Canucks uniform, Connor Garland played 32 games, had 9 goals, 13 assists for 22 points. He really plays that grit style game. He's aggressive physically, but he can also put up the goals and the assists as well. He's been pretty impressive for the Canucks as of late. Now, the final player I want to discuss for forwards leading the charge is Bo Horvat. Captain Bo Horvat, he struggled to put up points as of late, but once Bruce Boudreau came to town and told him to just shoot the goddamn puck, he started finally putting up the points. Now, although his points could be better, Horvat in 32 games played had 10 goals, 9 assists for 19 points. It's only going to go up from here. Another thing worth mentioning there too is that Bo Horvat is really good defensively. Last night against the Ducks, Tyler Myers had a pretty poor period. We'll talk about him later. But Bo Horvat came back and really covered for him a couple times and played pretty well defensively. Now, there are many other different forwards that I would love to talk about. For example, Elias Pettersson. Elias Pettersson has finally started shooting the puck from wherever he is in the zone. He hasn't put up the points yet, but it's definitely going to come. There's a couple other forwards I would like to talk about as well as Brock Besser. He's been impressive as of late, but unfortunately, we have to move on. Let's move on to the blue line now with the blue line X Factor, starting off with Quinn Hughes. Now, Quinn Hughes has been criticized about his defense since he got to Vancouver, but I still think he is a very solid offensive defenseman. Guys got to remember, his role is to not really play defense. His role is to play offense on defense, if that makes sense. Now, I haven't watched enough Canucks hockey to say that Quinn Hughes' defense has gotten better, but the offense is definitely there. 31 games played, 2 goals, 23 assists for 25 points, including an assist last night against the Anaheim Ducks. He's been solid on that blue line, bouncing off from just a god-awful last season. The next D-man I want to talk about is Tyler Myers. Now, Myers, look, he's been criticized a lot in Vancouver, taking so many penalties. Like last season, he took so many penalties, it was unreal. But this year, he's been okay with the penalties, and he's put up some offense to help the team. He's played the full 32 games and has put up 9 assists for 9 points. Doesn't have any goals yet. He may have his defensive struggles, but that is where Bo Horvat and other defensive players come in. And finally, we move on to the backbone, aka the goaltender who has been carrying the Canucks through it all, Thatcher Demko. Now, a little fun fact for you guys, Thatcher Demko was the first ever goaltender to be actually locked up to a legitimate contract by the Vancouver Canucks. And a lot of goalies have rolled through Vancouver as of late, including Jacob Markstrom, Yaroslav Halak, just to name a few. And after getting his new contract last season, Demko has not failed to disappoint this season. He is a 14-11-1 record with a 2.57 goals against average and a .920 save percentage. With a 14-11 record, he had a bad record before the Canucks started having a huge turnaround, and he still had those good numbers. So even when the Canucks were bad, he was still a very solid goaltender. Now, whatever you think is carrying the Canucks through this big win streak, whether it's Bruce Boudreau and his F-bombs, or it's the players and their dominance, you can't help but admit this has been an amazing run lately. Watching a team play like this after firing their entire management, which made fans happy alone, you love to see it, honestly. And you love to see it after all the pain that the Canucks have gone through the past 50 years and the past 8 years alone, if we're being honest. Now, although the win streak could end as early as tonight, you'll love to see the Canucks finally having some success. Anyways, guys, that is it for me. If you guys want to see some more Canucks-related videos, they will be posted right over here in this big eye icon right up there. Thank y'all for watching Friday Sports Late. I really do appreciate you guys subscribe. That'd be great. Canucks fans, let me know what your favorite part about this run has been. I gotta be honest, my favorite part has been JT Miller and his dominance as of late. Although I do want to get a Connor Garland jersey because I miss him in Arizona. But anyways, thank y'all for watching Friday Sports Late. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.